Hey, beautiful people. My name's Taylor, also known as Priceless Tay.
And I'm your co-host, Taylor and ROSARION.
We want to welcome you back to What the
Finance!
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of WTF with myself and Tedia. It's just us two. We're really going to get down low today. It's been like one of those times in, I think, both of Tedia's and I's life where we've been really stressed out lately. And we want to make this episode about stress, how we help management, some different kinds of tips and tricks, because let's be real here. We're all not perfect, and stress is always going to be there, whether you like it or not in your life. And it's up to you to make sure that you know how to manage it properly and turn that negative, pessimistic side into an optimistic, happier, positive outlook on such.
Right. Thank you, Taylor. So basically, we just have a question for you guys right off the bat. Have you ever felt like you were so stressed out that you didn't know how to navigate through it? Because it happened to me, and I'm pretty sure it happened to Taylor. And I want to share with you guys my story about stress and how I navigate through it. So maybe somewhere, somehow, it can help one of you to navigate through stress. Just keep in mind that stress is something all humans have to go through. It's not something you can eliminate. So hopefully we can just find ways to get through it and be champions. So I'm going to say that lately, the stress I've been put through it comes from what I do online. So if you guys don't know me, hi, I'm Taylor and Tedia. I started to share my journey about making more money and sharing tips and tricks for people to make more money, mostly through investing. So with that comes, it looks way easier than it is to be online, but with that comes just a different range of stress because then first of all, I dealt with like imposter syndrome, which is a syndrome that you feel like you are never enough in terms of like how people will see you. You feel like you are being fake somehow, even though you're not, because I still have a bachelor in accounting, so I know what I'm basically talking about most of the time. But sometimes I'm scared that someone just comes and be like, who the fuck are you? You're fake, you're this, you don't know what you're talking about, and all sorts of things. So I have to overcome that fear and believe in myself. And this has caused me stress because every time I get a hater, it brings me down. You know, these people who just stands beside their computer and just decides to hate on you. And that is literally something that stresses me because I don't want to like disappoint people. It's all in my head, I know, but yeah. So another thing that's stressing me out with what I'm doing is definitely about what I'm expecting for myself. So being my own boss has caused me a lot of stress because if you disappoint yourself, it's like way worse. I feel that being disappointed by disappointing
100%.
somebody else. So just putting these high expectations and not meeting them can bring you down and very low. So yeah, I have to navigate through that.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with everything that Tedia said, like, especially being a business owner. Of course, you guys listening right now, you may not be a business owner. You just might be a 15-year-old or 20-year-old that's still in school, or you may be somebody that's old and has older and has a full-time job, or, you know, everybody has stress in different circumstances. Mine, for example, as of recently, I went into a business venture, invested quite a bit of money into it, and just came to the realization that it wasn't going to work out. Not everything was meant to be. There's different circumstances now, and priorities do change. And from that, I was extremely stressful. I felt my feelings. I got emotional. I let it out. But after that, we cannot just dwell in this stress, right? There's distress and there's eustress. And this distress is pessimistic. We don't want to get out of bed. It's extremely negative. And at the end of the day, like, you're really questioning or not whether or not you're validated in life, you're going to be somebody, you're going to do something good for this world. And I was feeling that. And over the past few days, I really past few 24 hours have like came to the realization, like, I have to make this into a positive feeling, and I have to make this into a eustress, and that I'm taking a look at it as optimistic rather than pessimistic, and really seeing my opportunities now that I have some more time, and really just figuring out exactly analyzing what stress you are going through and how you can actually conquer it and start navigating through it, like Tedia said. So we really understand, we are not perfect human beings. We all go through it at one point, whether your stress is anxiety, whether your stress is depression, whether your stress is not getting good grades, whether your stress is having a hard time finding a job. Everybody goes through it. And so, Tedia, what do you think about stress overall? Do you know people and friends and family that go through it? Is it something that's really talked about in your life, or is it kind of just held all within?
Yeah, I'm just gonna expose my boyfriend. Shout out to him. So lately we've been going through stress. And then it's so like people don't want to talk about it. And even though we've been going through stress, he hid it from me, because as a man, it's not something you want to tell someone, like, I'm stressed, I'm weak right now. So anyway, I came to find out because all things come to light. So I know that it's difficult for some people to just express this stress, especially if you are a man in society. So if you're a man and listening to this, I am hopeful that you can find someone who you can vent to, who can listen to you. Because to me, that's like having support when you're having stress. It's such an important factor, but I understand that not everybody has a support system, and some people have to do it alone and deal with it alone. And I admire you guys for all of this. But Taylor, you mentioned some substance of stress. I think you stress dishes. I have no clue what are those. Can you explain?
Yeah. So there's a few different types of stress. The first stress is eustress, or actually we're going to start off with the bad stuff, right? So the first stuff is distress, and distress is when you just got laid off from your job, for example, and you don't know how you're going to pay your bills the next month, or distress, somebody in your family had passed away, something along those lines, and that you really feel like you have nowhere to go and no place to be, and you don't want to get out of bed. You're extremely overwhelmed with anxiety, and you just don't know how to take action. With eustress, on the other hand, it's a little bit more optimistic and more positive, in that if you have a job that you love at work and you love what you're doing, there's a little bit more tasks to be given. That might be a form of eustress. It makes you happy and makes you feel accomplished once you start completing those goals. It might be going on a hike on top of Mount Fiji, and during that process, like, oh my God, I don't know about you, but like when I'm hiking up the mountain, I'm like, oh, I just want to get up to the top. And so that's another form of eustress. Once you get up to the top, it's exhilarating. You feel so accomplished and relieved, like, so an overwhelming feeling of happiness and positivity and optimism. And so Teddy and I really want to talk about how you can turn your distress, that negative, pessimistic type stress, and turn it into a more positive, optimistic outlook, which in formal terms is what's known as eustress.
Right. I want to ask you though, let's say we have a lot of college students or high school students. Like, if they go through an exam and they're stressed, what type of stress this is? Oof. All of this valuable information, let's take a break. Thank you so much for listening to What the Finance. I'm your co-host, Tay Teddy, and make sure to follow me on Instagram at Teddy Rosarion to learn how to make more money in your pockets. I'm also on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. Let's go back to the podcast.
So it can be distress or eustress. Eustress is I'm going to get this grade even though I'm stressing out about it to maybe get a higher job opportunity. Distress is you are completely unmotivated. You don't even know why you're doing this. You feel no sense of accomplishment for even trying to achieve a good grade.
So guys, we can conclude that when you're stressed for an exam, it's actually a good thing, because then you're there and you know you want to finish it, get it done, move on to something else. So if you're struggling with that type of stress, just know that you can turn it into being like kind of a machine and just get it done and moving on.
Exactly. Yeah. And another example too, for those who are still a little bit are confused, turning that distress into eustress is example. We're just going to use this hypothetically. So many people from COVID got demoted or got laid off from your job. If you're listening to this might be you. You might not even have the income to pay your bills the next month. And this would be qualified as distress. However, when you're going from a distress to a eustress state, you can see that opportunity to find a better paying job or a job that you see a longer term vision in. Example, like you see so many startups and so many entrepreneurs coming out of recessions and coming out of times and turning all of that negativity into something that we couldn't even figure out that was imaginable. And so it's up to you to figure out your mindset, your place in this world, and that I'm not going to be this person that's laying in bed all the time and not taking action over anything. I'm going to be that person that uses circumstances like those to make the best possible version of myself.
For
and
sure.
I think it's really important to talk about this. I mentioned this in an email thread to a few people the other day. Keep calm and carry on. There are times when obstacles come and there's overwhelming uncertainty, anger, sadness, or just an array of emotions. Take a deep breath, relax, and think with a clear mind. Like I said, feel your feelings. If you don't feel your feelings, you will be weeks, months, years, depending on how traumatic your situation is, just lingering over and over and over again. I recommend getting a therapist if you don't already have one, or getting that friend that you can just literally spill everything out on. After that, once you start feeling your feelings, move forward into your next venture with the lessons you have learned from your past experiences, whether it may be controlling yourself emotionally, finding something new spiritually, or going through something physically as well. It's just so important to analyze those past failures or events or situations and really make them into your future successes.
Yeah, I want to add that. Oh, it was well said, Taylor. So some of you guys might experience stress for the first time, actually. So when you're a teenager, I know like not everybody has the same life and you could have experienced stress as a kid, but often of the time, if you're a teenager, it's like you're having your first experiences with stress, heartbreaks, and all sorts of things. So it might be a lot overwhelming. Well, I remember when I was a teenager and I first experienced stress, it got me into an enormous depression and it ended up really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in that particular case, you don't even know you're going through it. You're just gonna grow up one day and look back at it and realize that it was your first time experiencing stress. But just know that, like Taylor said, you're gonna get through this, and it's just all about the mind. And we wish you a lot of luck. And like we said, talk it out. As well as one important stress that we didn't talk about is money stress, financial stress. A lot of people go through financial stress. I've been working at the bank and I've seen how like people are broke and how money is bringing a lot of stress to people. So I don't know, like how can you guys get through this stress? If you're having so much debts for some reason, you just wake up one day and you realize you have thousands of dollars in debts. My advice to you is to literally try to just make a plan. That's my favorite one. Follow me and Taylor. I'm pretty sure we can give you advice on how to, start to see the light if you're covered with debts and covered with all sorts of financial situations. That's what we do.
Yeah, I want to bringing it back to Tadia, like Tadia said, like if you're 10 to 14 years old and like you're going through your first breakup or something along those lines. Last night I watched this. I just have a few more minutes left. I actually fell asleep during it, but it's called The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. Highly recommend it to every single person right now who's listening to this or who's watching this as well too on YouTube. Basically, it talks about the stress that social media brings and the power that your
That was
smartphone
so good.
has.
So good.
Oh
Sorry.
my God. Like, guys, they brought up statistics on there, like the amount of suicides, anxiety, depression that 10 to 14-year-olds today, right, that now are able to like take a look and see what's going on social media, putting filters on their faces and having extreme amounts of hates or trying to feel that social validation. And so it's so important to try and figure out like how you can make that distress into eustress. Use social media as a positive outreach, as a tool instead of something that's an addiction and something that you have to rely on. There's a stat that was in there. Like, I'm a Gen Z. Tedia, you're a Gen Z too, right? 1996, right?
I'm borderline Gen Z. I never knew that. I thought I was millennial.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So if you're born on 1996 or after, you are qualified as a Gen Z. And our generation was the first ever to really, in middle school, be brought up with a phone and have that form of communication and have the internet right at our disposal. And it really is up to you on whether or not you take that into a tool, the internet. I can learn as much more than I can than my parents have. I can learn more than my grandparents have ever had. I can reach out to people, start networking, or you can take it as something as an addiction. I need to post this picture to feel as though I'm loved, to feel as though I am pretty, to feel as though I belong in this world. And that's, like have all these feelings. And so I don't know really where I was going with this, but
I know, like in the documentary they mentioned like the algorithm wants to feed you what you want.
yes.
So if it brings you stress to look at like all of these beautiful girls and all of these people having the life you don't have, etc., like to me it brings a lot of stress on my personal account that I don't use, because when I open it all I see is like the Kardashians and beautiful girls, and then I'm just like, why can I like look like this or whatever. But then on my page, my brand, I don't have none of those because I only look at business stuff, and it's so healthy to me. I've never had a healthy relationship with Instagram, and every time I see a beautiful girl I want to look at her because I'm just gonna be like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty, and I'm not like this or like that, or blah, 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 and start to like decline in my mind. But I'm just like, now that I know the algorithm, if I look at it, will give me more of her, and I don't want that. So I don't look at it, and I look at business stuff. So I really try to control what the algorithm is going to feed me. And I hope you guys can do that for yourself, because, oh my God, it could really change everything.
Turning that distress into eustress, using things that you can make yourself at the end of the day be tools. And like the algorithm, guys, is a real thing. You seriously have to go watch this. Like, my brother's algorithm is totally different than what I'm seeing. Like, he's like, I've never seen some of these people, which like you always like talk about, like the business and educational and finance side of things. Like, his feed is like totally some other travel type, whatever, gym stuff, all this kind of stuff that I never even see. So that's what we're really talking about when we're saying using it as a tool and like starting to build that healthy relationship with social media. Because honestly, we're in 2020. How much, I want to ask the audience, how much of your stress is coming from social media, is coming from Snapchat, is coming from Instagram, is coming from TikTok? You always comparing yourself to others, you receiving a message that's been on read, or on Snapchat, you send something that's just been delivered and opened and not, like open back up. Pause.
Sorry. That's my sister.
Hi.
Hi, Audrey. Come
How
here.
you doing?
This is our podcast. So, have you ever experienced stress with social media on Instagram or TikTok? Do you see these other people doing things that you want or exactly that just bring you stress? And like, just tell us, is that a reality that happens to you?
You already know. Like, I'm always seeing these beautiful models. They're living these lavish lives. I'm like, I'm just basic. I don't have like 6 packs. I don't live the glamorous lifestyle.
Does that bring you stress?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes me disappointed and in myself, but then I know that most of what I see isn't the truth.
Oh, so, good point. Yeah. Thank you, Audrey.
No problem.
Most of what you see is fake, maybe. It's just tell the truth.
Agreed. Facetune, the filters that we're talking about on Snapchat, really they change your perspective on what is your actual reality.
So I think like this is a wrap. That was like so impactful. I felt it in all my body. That was an amazing conversation.
This was like a therapy session. Everybody was just tuning into our therapy session. So if you want to continue these therapy sessions, make sure to text 424-226-5797. Text us something that you're feeling stressed about and let's talk. Like, we're here for you. We got you. We got your back.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You will see us back again next Thursday.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
You've been listening to WTF, What the
Finance,
with the one and only
Taylor and Rosarion.
And last but not least, Taylor Price. Make sure to receive all of the updates on WTF by texting WTF to 424-226-5797. Message and rates may apply.